So we've got the yamas and the niyamas. These are prerequisites in some schools, and they're the first two limbs within the Ashtanga tradition. So yama is restraint. Now, if you read light on yoga, when you read what the Ashtanga, what the yamas are, they are the commandments. Now, nowhere does it say or imply you must do this. That's why it's very much a map. So if you want to progress, these are the things that will help you. And so already, psychologically, there is a difference. It's not imposed. It's working on universal law. You do this, this happens. You do this, this happens. You don't do this, this doesn't happen. Okay? So it's completely up to the individual. Ahimsa is the first one, and it is kind of like the ultimate. So those that follow the Sharang, they would also say that non-violence sort of covers everything. So all these, the restraints are not just external actions, they are on every level. And like, even though these 8 limbs are in succession, I don't believe they're like that. It just, how can you write things down? You have to write them in an order. But it doesn't really work like that, and I'll tell you why I think that as we go along. So we've got ahimsa, which is non-violence. And then we've got satya, truthfulness. And so if we look at truthfulness, what we mean is no lying. And why is that? If we lie, we are already supporting the illusion, which is unreal. And also, if we lie, we are hindering progress, because we are programming this, which knows we're lying, to say, I did that, but this knows that I didn't do that. So then the mind or the system thinks, okay, well, she obviously said that she did that and she didn't, which means whenever she opens her mouth and says, I am this, like if you're doing an affirmation, you have to believe that you are that, she doesn't mean it. And so she doesn't get it. And so what she says doesn't come true, because she's already set it in motion. So in this way, that's just one way of looking at the term satya. I mean, all these you can write a chapter on all of them. The process of yoga, even if you don't have these, leads you in that direction. So as the change starts to happen, and as with the niyamas that we'll come to in a second start to also happen, these get stronger. That's why it's not like you have to first have the yamas and the niyamas before you can go to asana. Because when you start to work on the asana, it also starts to bring the yamas and niyamas into fruition more. And then they become landmarks as to how far you've gone along your path when you start to then self-study, which is another niyama. So they're all kind of like intertwined within each other. So the last of the yamas within the 5 is aparigraha. And this term, if we break down the word, we have a, which is a negation, pari, which is in one way circumambulation, so all around, and graha, if anyone has studied astrology for the planet, is graha, which means to seize. The word means, so the planet grabs you and influences you when you're in that planet's realm. That's why it's called a graha, because it grips you. And in the same way, this is the same word. Graha is to seize or to grip or to grasp. So from all directions, not to grasp anything. So if you don't grasp anything, it means again that you're content and that your sense organs are not needing this and that, not needing them. Because otherwise, like addiction, you can't help it. Your mind is there, or you're looking at something, you want that, or you're addicted to Netflix or whatever, your phone. It's all your senses needing something to grasp. So those are the 5 restraints. And then we have the niyamas. Niyam in Hindi is a custom. And so here, like different texts, like niyamas, observances, which ones of the yamas and the niyamas are not working yet? You have to keep on looking and also be truthful with what you see. So they're all different ways of getting you to be lighter and be able to work with the subtler states, let's say, getting a little bit refined. If you're in the presence of someone that has these happening, you like being in their presence because you don't feel uncomfortable. Yeah, there's nothing that's threatening. And so then you're creating a harmonious state for those, not just this is harmonious, but everyone around you will pick up on that harmonious state. And so it spreads to those in your vicinity. Because remember, we're doing the yoga, but it's not just about us doing the yoga, it's about helping others. We all have to move up together. It's like the ladder. You have to fill the ladder, the steps of the ladder below, below, below. Everyone is moving together. The information is shared for everyone. So number 3 is asana. Asan means easy in Hindi. And so the asana becomes a long one, long A. And if we use the Sanskrit rules, when you lengthen a verb like that, it's something that derives from it. So easy is something that derives from asan, which is also a seat or a throne. So we have the very famous sthira sukham asanam. Yeah? Steady, happy seat. Because as a sutra, it's not meant to make sense. But that's what it is. Sthira, steady. Sukham. Actually, sukham means with space. And if you have space, it means, well, if you imagine if you don't have space, what do you feel? You feel trapped. You feel mentally like closed in. So sukham, meaning with space, is a word that we use in English as happy, yeah? Because we don't feel restricted in any way, yeah? Asanam. So steady, happy in a seated position. But asana also, within the term that we know, it's working towards sitting for the finer angas. So why? Because we can't sit unless we can move the body at will. Like I want to be able to sit up straight. I want to be in Padmasana so that I can hold my position for a long period of time and still, which means that my mind is still. If my body is not still, or I'm uncomfortable, my knee hurts, I can't hold myself straight, my muscles are hurting, then it's going to be hard to sit and not have a mind that is moving from here and there, which Chitta Vritti Nirodha will not happen. Yeah. So after the asana, we have pranayama. Yeah, and now this is an interesting one because different schools talk about pranayama in a very completely different way. So a couple of months ago, maybe last month, I can't remember, we did some pranayama. The last 2 sessions we did very gentle pranayama going on with a little visualization last month, moon here, sun in the navel. Do you remember this? So the moon and the sun, obviously her, sun, moon, merging of the two, Ida, Pingala, cold, hot, merging of the opposites, the opposites coming together. When they lock into place, equal amount of one and the other, and they cancel each other out, that then takes you up into the central column. We haven't got there yet, but this is where we are. So this pranayama, so with some pranayamas, like in this Yukta Bhavadeva, this book I was telling you about, I'll put it there just in case you can get it online. This has some nice stuff on there that's not in other books. Actually, there's another Hatha Ratnavali, which are the same authors, and they also talk about some interesting pranayamas that you don't see in other books. Pranayama is like the bridge between the manifest and the unmanifest. So the finer layers of this universe, which you want to start to communicate with. And you start to communicate with by being aware more. And you can only be aware more by getting rid of the pullings of the sense organs, by the desires of the lower mind, which take up lots and lots of energy. Okay? And they also give us tunnel vision, usually in the wrong direction. And then we're not living in harmony. We have to follow that which is for us to follow, not someone else telling us to follow, or not because some desire inside from the individual self is saying, well, if you make friends with that person, then that person will get you this, which will take you here, which will take you there. And then you're completely off your path and on some random other path. It's not your path then. It's the path of that one tiny part of you that wants something small because of the indriyas not being, or just the self not being cleaned from those lower things. Also vasanas, which come from perhaps we've inherited from our parents and people that brought us up. So these are also things that we have to look at. That's what part of swadhyaya is to learn about the self, okay? So then we have pratyahara, right? Now pratyahara is very similar. If I tell you what the word means, we have prati, which is away from, and we have ahara, which means, does anyone know what this word means? It means food. So away from food is the meaning of the word, which again is all food. It's not the food that you eat, it's the food that's going in through all the sense organs. So the bridge is pranayama, and then what happens is pratyahara starts to happen and everything starts to turn in. So then your panorama, internal panorama, starts to be more lit up than what, even though your eyes are open and looking that way, more than what you're looking at outside, which takes you deeper into the self. And then we have dharana. Now, dharana and dhyan are the next two. And dhyan is deeper than dharana. Now, the word dharana, you know what the word, you've heard the word adhar. It's something that holds you. It's like it holds it steady. It's someone that's the holder of something. They usually put adhar at the end of whatever that word is. Dharana is the same. So you've got focus, or you've got concentration, focus, and you can hold it. You can hold that concentration. That's what the dharana means. And then the dhyan, going even deeper, it's like it's the proper state of meditation. Yeah? And so when you're in that proper state of meditation, nothing in the outside world will pull you away from it. You are so locked in that the outside world is like literally starting to disappear. Yeah, I don't know who has read my book and who hasn't, but there is a part in there which is related to subject and object, because you have, again, subject, absolute, object, the individual within this world, and everything else, all the objects that are in here that we are looking at individually. And there's a part there where the description of the subject as opposed to the object is that the objects do not have definition. They are not defined because there is not enough consciousness facing outwards to give it definition. All that energy is turned inwards. So everything starts to look like shadows. Like the attention is so turned in to the subject that people are literally just like shadows. There's no face on them. They're just things that are there because this is so can't think of the word, so full that you don't have any space left to actually give like blue or a line. There's no definition whatsoever. So then that's how the objectified world starts to dissipate because everything turns into the subjective world, which is Shiva. And then, of course, we have the last one, which is Samadhi. This is where everything is you, and you are everything. So there is nothing other than you, and that's what this Shivoham is. So the reason why I don't think that this is linear is because it's not that you go through one and then you go through the next and then you go through the next and then you get to Samadhi and then you stay there. It doesn't really work like that because I feel it's either a spiral that's going like this, but also like this, or it's like a mandala where you're in the middle and it's like this. And in this, because as you do the asana, what happens is you start to clean up. As you do the asana, you start to get more awareness of yourself. As you do the asana, your food the desire of what you eat starts to change. And as you go along, and depending on what you read, and maybe you've read all the texts early on, but they don't mean anything, and it's only knowledge. But then if you continue and you've got a practice every day, that practice becomes a kind of not landmark. It's like a mirror. It's like a mirror that's telling you where you are, what is going on in your life right now. But if you don't have, even if that practice is like 5 minutes a day, it's more important. That's why I say 5 minutes a day is more important than an hour a week. Because it's that regularity, it's that consistency that then you get to see different parts of that mirror. And it's all you. So you can have this higher state and it like basically then you see what happens, how the breath starts to change, how you have to basically hold on no matter where you are. It's a spontaneous thing. It's not like you do your practice and you get this higher state. It's like you are out in the world and this thing happens to you and you got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And then it can last for a really long time. But then you see all these things and then you take them with you. You take them with you so that the way that you see the world when you've come down from that state is enlightened. You have another understanding. There's never an end. You never reach there because it's just more and more and more enlightenment. There is no end. And so then, of course, you forget something. You meet that person that really, really presses all your buttons and all of a sudden you're having a tantrum. But maybe they last less time. Maybe you can then step back and go, hang on a second, Why did that happen? Because obviously you both fell into the same groove that you always fell into. And then it's a case of pulling yourself out and saying, well, she's not going to change. And the only thing that can happen is that I have to tackle this differently. And then you try a different way. And it means that your individual self is not holding on to having to be right or having to whatever it was that it was, you know. And so then the individual self starts to dissolve. But that's why these yamas and niyamas and asana pranayama is not so one after the other. It's very much a repetition of each other. Every single one of them is in every single one of them, if you see what I mean. So the yamas have everything in them. The niyamas have everything in them. Asana has all those things in them. They all have each other inside. That's why Sanskrit is very interesting to learn, because you see how the translation is very much a reflection of the person that translated it. And if you really want to know what those texts say, even if you don't want to learn the grammar and you don't want to go through the process of learning the language, all you have to do is go to the sutras. I mean, as I said, Patanjali Sutras is just one way of many. So read lots of text. But the sutras are good because they're like statements. They are words. And those words are meant to be confusing. Yeah, they're meant to be confusing. If they're not confusing, then there's a problem. You can't look at a sutra and know what it means. It's like you have to contemplate. And what it means today is different to what it's going to mean in 10 years' time. Even next year, it's going to mean a different thing because you're going to be in a different place. So you can look at these sutras. You can go to a website called Wisdom Lib, and just know that it's also good to cross-reference. Wisdom Lib is not the be-all and end-all, but it's a very good place to start. And look at how many words are translated. Even get a small Sanskrit dictionary. Look at how many words are translated to mean the one word that you've just looked up. This is something that could be useful for you.